Hello, everyone. This is Gavin Escolar from the Chaga Company, and we are here with Chaga Chat. We are very honored and privileged to have Robert Rogers, one of the foremost authority of medicinal mushrooms. He is an author of 52 books about medicinal mushrooms and fungi in the boreal forest. He is also the author of Mushroom Essences, Vibrational Healing from the Kingdom Fungi. He writes about mushroom essences prepared under lunar influence for working with soul connection and depth psychology. Robert, thank you very much for having us over and for Chaga Chat. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Thank you. Yeah, self-isolating, paying attention. I'm up in Alberta in Canada, and we're not faring too badly if people are paying attention. And yeah, I mean, it is taking its toll on some elderly, but more or less it's okay.
Oh, good, good, good. So we are here now. I'm in San Francisco too, and we are also in our shelter in place. So we know that your knowledge base for medicinal mushrooms is massive. How did you get your, how did you start learning about medicinal mushroom? Where did the passion come from?
That's a great question. Well, I am by profession a clinical herbalist, which I have been for about 50 years.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And I did clinical practice for about 18. And during that time, I would have a lot of oncology patients who I would refer reishi or turkey tail, etc., while they were undergoing chemotherapy or radiation to make sure that their white blood cell count stayed up, etc. And I noticed that they were more effective than anything else I tried. And so that got my initial interest. And then I started looking at the mushrooms that are in the woods around where I live near the boreal forest, and wrote a little 16-page monograph, and then 32, and then, the fungal pharmacy, which is over 600. And that's how it goes.
So it just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, my interest grew, and then I realized that there weren't a lot of books out there that really, gave people all that information in one place. Yeah.
I see. So what are the general benefits of medicinal mushrooms that you have checked out before?
Gee, that's a really tough one. I mean, they're good for just about all the major, cancers, diabetes, blood pressure, cardiovascular, lung. But basically the two things they're most useful for is one is called immune modulation. And that means, of course, if your immune system is less than optimal, it will bring it up to snuff. And if your immune system is overly active, as in autoimmune responses, then it will damp it down. And so it can be used as a modulator, not stimulating, not depressing, but modulates according to what your needs are.
Oh, so it puts you in your best level.
That's it.
Or down.
That's it. Really... Wherever you're at, it takes you closer to balance and homeostasis. Oh, wow. And then the other thing it's great for is an anti-inflammatory. And as we know, there is no other substances except mushrooms that both have benefit to your immune system and are anti-inflammatories.
That's true. That's very, very true.
Yeah. Like cortisol will give you inflammatory relief, but it will depress your immune system. Yeah.
Yes. That's true. Cortisol is like steroids, right? Is that?
Yeah, cortisone. Yeah, which can save lives, but it has some nasty side effects for sure.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Chaga. I know that you have a wealth of knowledge about Chaga. You have the good, the bad, the ugly, everything else. Can you give us a small synopsis or take as much time as you want?
Yeah, sure. Well, I know you have a love of Chaga, obviously. And yeah, and it's in the forest here, and I gather occasionally myself. The good of it, well, I think there's lots. I get emails on a regular basis from people who had friends or themselves helped with different kinds of cancers, from esophageal to ovarian, and all kinds of anecdotal stories. So I have no question or doubt that it has great benefit. It doesn't have, as yet, a really good human clinical trial. About 50, 60 years ago, out of Russia, there were a couple of studies done on immune system and psoriasis, and showed some some level of efficacy. So I think there's some point we need to do more studies on Chaga for sure. So I think there's benefit there. The other side, well, I think you have to be careful. Number one, I am worried about the sustainability of the harvest. It is a sterile conch, and just when that tree finally has been used up by the mycelium, the sterile conch basically will fruit for a very short period of time. And if there are no Chaga on the trees, then there will be no more Chaga. So I do believe it's really important to sustain, be sustainable in our harvest. We do need, I think, desperately some type of a certification body.
Yes.
American, Canadian, or North American that goes, we say this has been, harvested sustainably, and we certify that. So I think that's coming. I would hope.
I really hope so too, because I deal with a lot of Eskimos in Alaska, and they sustainably harvest their chaga. And at the same time, for example, like in Wisconsin, I have a farmer over there that goes only on logging sites. So before they actually log these forests, I guess he collects chaga over there.
Yeah. And if it's done properly, if you pry it off, and not take a chainsaw to it, if you come back a few years later, it will grow out again, and you could harvest for up to 20 years from the same tree on the same site if it's taken out properly. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yes.
The only other things I would say about it that are interesting is it does interact with blood thinners. So people who are taking blood thinners, I've seen cases of entire mucous membranes of the throat and mouth slough right off when taken together. So that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And several stories of kidney stones and kidney death associated with daily consumption. If you want to avoid that oxalate type of reaction that creates stones and irritation of the kidneys, ensure that you take your product with some source of calcium.
Thank you very much. And moreover, before you get into like a strict chaga diet or a supplement, please consult your doctor first too.
I would say, although they wouldn't know much about it, I will say, the average MD and oncologist knows so little about medicinal mushrooms that that's actually the topic of my next book that'll be coming out next year, is all of the human clinical trials that have been done on all the medicinal mushrooms, all in one volume. And so they'll not be able to refute that there are no benefits, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I'm really, really excited for this book that's going to come out. And then, so can you tell us a little bit more about your mushroom essences? I'm really blown away on how I feel like mushrooms are coming from the underworld, and at the same time, it reacts very much so with the lunar series. Or can you tell me more about, I'm fascinated by it.
Well, thank you. Have you got the book at all? Have you ever seen it?
Not yet. I was reading through your thing, and he's like the author of Mushroom Essences. I'm all like, I'm all about this. I'm all about
Well,
charging your soul, and then it's all about vibrational energy, I feel,
Yeah, they're very, very interested. It took me 26 years to write that book. So, to research and work with clinical application with clients and things. And so I finally got it together, and it almost didn't come out, but I don't know how much time we have, but I could tell you a great story.
Take your time. Tell me all the stories.
So anyways, so I wrote this book, and it took, preparations vibrationally of different mushrooms. Some were like the polypores on the trees, for example, chaga, and others, some of the ganodermas would be involved with just drilling a little hole in them and putting a vial of water in there for a 28-day cycle, a whole lunar cycle.
Okay.
Others were prepared in bowls with rainwater, crystal bowls, exposed to different phases of the moon, some full moon, some new moon. So it took me quite a while to figure out which ones for which things, and then to work with clients with regards to different issues that were like flower essences, but are you familiar with flower essences or the idea of them?
Yes,
Yeah, a
just
little bit.
a
Yeah,
little.
yeah. So these are more for the shadow work that actually is a lot of Jungian psychologists want to dip below that first few layers of taking off, psychological trauma and deep
Mhm.
and kind of dive deeper into some of the initial core issues. And so mushrooms, because of their connection to the underworld, the underground,
Mhm.
connection with lunar, which is quite different than solar.
Uh-huh.
And so I basically finally get that book all written, and I emailed my publisher. He's actually in Berkeley, North Atlantic, out of Berkeley. Yeah, really good people there.
Oh, great.
Um, and I told him about the topic, and he goes, real nice guy, Doug. He says, Robert, he says, I don't think there's a market for that. I don't. He says, I said, well, ask your team, see what they think.
Yeah.
And I said, and if you don't want to do it, just let me know. I'll give you till Monday, and I'll just self-publish. I'll just publish it myself because I put 26 years into this. I'm not going to just let it go, right?
Mhm.
So that weekend, he and his wife and child, they went off to the Sierra Nevada camping, just went for a hike. And they came upon 8 people in a circle around a bowl of water
Okay.
making a flower essence.
Oh,
And
wow.
so Doug thought, wow. And so he went up to them. He stood there and waited for a while, and they looked at him. And he said, well, what do you guys think about mushroom essences? And all 8 herbalists turned to him at the same time and said, where do we get those?
And that's the birth of your book. They
Yeah.
approved it.
And on the Monday, he wrote me and said, okay, we'll publish it. And so,
Wow.
yeah. But it's all about, I'll just read you, I want to read you this because this
Please.
was written before the age of Trumpism in your country.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So just so you note, I'll just quickly read it. So,
Yeah, please.
so Western civilization has an aversion to shadow work. But why? The answer is that there is hard, honest work involved. As a consequence of this aversion, we now have a modern society run, for the most part, by adolescent males. If this does not frighten you, it should. Many of the major decisions regarding public policy, governance, and our legal system are discussed, written up, and passed into law by immature, juvenile egotists. That's how the book's.
Right on USA, Mr. Canada. I'll tell you that.
Well, we have our own set of issues, but yeah.
And we're only one border away.
Yeah. But anyway, so the 48 of them, including one on Chaga mushroom essence, they've been, the book's only been out about 2 years, and I get orders from Sweden and France and South Africa and New Zealand. Practitioners buy the kits of 48 essences for their practice, for their own clinical practice, because in the book I give case studies that give you an idea of how you could use them with people. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Can you buy those 48 essences on your website? Do you have?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
What's your website?
Yeah, and you can get the book, of course, from Amazon, or that's probably easier for you. But my website that I think I passed on to you, do you want me to repeat it at all? Or?
Yes, please. If you could spell it out, that'd be great.
Yeah. So it's www.self, SELF, heal, HEAL, distributing. That's all one word, selfhealdistributing.com.
Thank you so much. One last thing, Robert. For us in the pandemic or anything, is there like a quick hack that you could give us, or something to just calm us, mind, body, and soul? Any herbs, mushrooms that we can get somewheres?
Well, I would say that, the optimal way to use medicinal mushrooms is before a crisis. That is, taking mushrooms on some form of regular basis, either ingesting them or as supplements to keep your immune system healthy. That's ideal. For example, some, in this particular case right now, cordyceps, which is a very popular mushroom as well,
Mm-hmm.
should not be taken during fever. So anybody who has a flu, fever, should avoid that particular one, at least in that stage.
Really? Is it
Yeah.
because of its energy or its vitality, or is it feed the
Yeah, the
fever?
way it has an initial ramp up of parts of your immune system that would be contraindicated and perhaps aggravate that particular cytokine inflammatory cascade that goes on. But that's the only time that it would not be viable. But I've been using, my favorite herb is
Uh-huh.
which is a great antiviral. And I steam on a daily basis with a mixture of raven sarah and laurel leaf essential oils, because those two are very powerful virucidals.
Uh-huh.
And as you know, as the virus enters the nose initially and hangs out for a while,
Mm,
um,
oh,
by steaming, you can really help to, cut down the numbers or eliminate or whatever, because, it's not directly vericidal in your body, but
mm,
when they are in the initial stage in your nose throat, that's the best time to catch the prevention.
and get rid of them. Just steam it away.
You hope. I mean, it's proven for other viruses. I don't know if it works for this particular nasty one. Right.
Oh, yes, that's true. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much for this interview. And yeah, let's see. Anything else you want to talk to us about to our audience, actually?
Well, I don't know. I think just stay apprised. I have a new book just came out, but because the bookstores are all closed, it's not going to be easily available in your country for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called Medicinal Mushrooms of Western North America,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is from Alaska down to California. And that book eventually will be available, but not until things settle down a bit.
So, in any of your books, do you have anything that's on audiobooks or an ebook format that they could download immediately? Well,
Well, I think both Mushroom Essences and Fungal Pharmacy, I think, are available both as ebooks.
oh, that's great, and we could get that at Amazon or Audible, and when
Yeah, where those are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I know. Like I have my mixed feelings about Amazon. It is this
I,
vehement, but you know what? I use it occasionally because it's handy.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's so
Yeah.
so true. Thank you so much for Chaga Chat, and we will see you later. Thanks, Robert.
No problem. Okay, very nice chatting with you.
Thank you.